Good morning, Michaela.
Good morning.
I'm so glad you responded to me because it lets me know that you hear me. They changed all of the computer setup on Friday, so I wasn't sure if Teams would work right today or not.
Yeah, I'm at my friend's dorm or my teammate's dorm right now, and I can hear you a lot better than what I'd be able to hear you if I was at my dorm because the Wi-Fi
Oh,
is
yeah.
really bad over there.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, they upgraded us on Friday because before I was using this itty bitty little iPad to do everything. And now we have a big desktop. But we had to re-download everything and I wasn't sure if it would work.
Yeah, you sound much better.
Oh, good. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad that you made it this early on a Monday morning. So for me, class is a little bit exciting today because they just gave us new monitors on Friday, and for the first time, I can actually see you guys. So I can actually see your faces today, which is nice. It's exciting for me. Today, as far as class, is going to be a little different from usual because something exciting is happening for you guys too. Today is the day that you find out who your groups are for your censorship project. And today I'm also going to be giving you guys some time to work on your projects. But first we're going to go over chapter 5, which is a really short chapter. If you looked at it, it's only about 6 pages long. And it specifically focuses on the different ways to analyze paintings as well as censorship. And since your project is about censorship, it's important that we understand what that word means and what we're referring to before we start working on our projects. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started on chapter 5. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so chapter 5, like I mentioned, is all about how to analyze and evaluate art, as well as the topic of censorship. So in art, there's 3 specific ways to judge art. By the way, the idea of art criticism, which is a profession that several people in the art world possess, and their job is to make judgments about art, both good and bad judgments. People that go into this particular discipline do go to school to learn how to do that, and they learn all of these different theories that we're going to be talking about today. So once again, there are 3 ways to judge or analyze an artwork. The first of which is formal theory. The formal theory of art criticism focuses on composition, primarily on those principles of design that we've been looking at, as well as understanding historically what other artists have created in art history. And we'll look at an example of formal theory and a way to formally analyze a painting in a second. The second way to judge art is contextual theory. Contextual theory considers art as a product of culture. So if you're going to analyze a work based on contextual theory, you have to take into consideration what was going on around the artist at that time. What are some of the things that the artists experienced to make them want to create this work of art? And the third theory is expressive. Expressive pays attention to the way the artist has put their own feelings and personality into their artwork. Oftentimes, an art critic will put all 3 of these theories together when they are judging or analyzing an artwork. So like I mentioned, we're going to go through different examples of each one. The first of which is formal theory. Formal theory, once again, looks at how art's made, primarily focusing on the principles of design that we looked at last week, but also looking at art history. So in art history, before we watch this little snippet, a common theme throughout in a particular topic of interest to a lot of different artists is the female nude. So it's going to come up throughout art history once we get to chapters 15 through 25. And it's going to keep popping up because it's super popular for artists, and a lot of artists spend a lot of time studying how to make the perfect female nude. But it's also going to change throughout history. Oh, I just realized what I did. I let it go to Internet Explorer. I should not have let it go to Internet Explorer. It's slow. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here, and that's probably all we're going to watch, just because I wanted a comparison of these two particular works, and for you guys to understand that the female nude has been a pretty common picture to look at throughout history, human history. But the Venus of Urbino by Titian and Olympia by Manet, Manet being the father of Impressionism, not Monet, but Manet. There's a difference between the two. So Manet clearly was looking at Titian's Venus of Urbino. Venus of Urbino was done during the Renaissance era. Manet's Olympia was done in the 1800s, so quite a few hundred years after that. But they're clearly drawing upon each other. One of these was really well received by the public, and one of them was hated by the public. Can someone unmute and tell me what they think, which one they think would be well received? Just take a guess. It's a 50-50. Probably the one that you like more is the one that was more well received.
While the video was playing, I don't know if it was only me, but it's still on your contextual theory slide.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you. I think that's Heaven. Thank you, Heaven.
It is.
Okay. Now, can you guys see these?
No, ma'am.
Okay. We will figure out how to do it. I might have to stop presenting and then start again. Now you should be able to. Okay. You can see it now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So over on this side, we have Titian's Venus of Urbino, which was done during the Renaissance era. And over on the opposite side, we have Manet's Olympia, which was done in the 1800s. Obviously extremely similar. However, one of them people actually like and the other one people don't usually like. Can someone unmute and tell me which one they think was probably well received by the public? Or which one you like more?
One on the right,
Yeah, why do you like that one more?
more colorful.
Yeah, it is a lot brighter colors. These textures in that painting are a lot smoother and less like cold feeling. If you notice, the artist Titian used a lot of warm tones, yellows and reds, and this one is a lot more cool colors, so it's a little bit more off-putting. If you could unmute and tell us how these two paintings are similar.
they're both kind of laying in the same way, and then there's someone in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, so each one has their maid servant in the background taking care of them. By the way, the subject matter for both of these is a female prostitute, in case you were wondering. So both of these women reclining in the nude are prostitutes. However, one of them definitely looks more welcoming than the other one. That has to do with the color usage as well as her gaze and her posture. Her posture is a lot more welcoming. This one is kind of like, why are you here? I'm tired, I'm bored, I don't want to do this anymore. Hers is like a come hither stare. Also, the background in this one is a little bit more engaging. They chose a darker figure for that background versus this one has the brighter tones, which once again, brighter tones are more welcoming than darker tones to our human eye. So yeah, Titian's particular Venus of Urbino is extremely well received during the Renaissance era, and it was studied in art drawing classes and painting classes for years and years as the great example of the female reclining nude figure. Manet did go to art school. He did study about Titian. He studied about color theory, placement, and all of those things. However, Manet chose himself to create this particular reclining nude instead of the welcoming one for personal reasons and personal choice. So when we're going through our formal theory, we need to make sure to look at the way the artist designed the paintings, the colors and techniques they used, and the way that that particular art piece applies to art history. So whether or not the artist looks at other artworks of similar subject matter and is inspired by them, such as Titian's Venus of Urbino versus Manet's. So both of them used the similar theme of the reclining nude. However, Titian uses it in a more welcoming and romantic way, using specific theories of color and design to do that. And Manet uses the same theme of the reclining nude, but does a different spin on it, his own spin. Critics did not receive Manet's reclining nude very well. In fact, eventually Manet is going to make the art critics so mad that they don't let him show his artwork in regular shows anymore because he doesn't follow their regular formal theories on color and design that normal artists do. So yeah, and we'll talk about him a lot more once we get to the Impressionist chapter. Is everyone clear on what a formal theory is? Okay, I see a lot of yeses, so I'm thinking we're good. So that means that we are going to move on to contextual theory. Contextual theory is looking at environmental influences. So what's happening in the world around the artist that's making them create this artwork? One great example of that is Dadaism. That's a particular art trend that came about right when World War I started. During World War I, there was a lot of panic. It was the first war on a global scale. And a lot of people thought that it would either be the war to end all wars or that the war was going to end up destroying the planet, one or the other. They didn't know which. So people were really scared. There is extreme violence with World War I that hadn't been seen in other wars to that date, just because of the new technologies that were used in that war. Of course, there was another war, World War, after World War I, so the people that were thinking it was going to be the war to end all wars were obviously wrong, and the world didn't end after World War I, but you had a lot of people panicking. And a lot of artists were panicking, and the way these artists decided to channel their panic was into creating a new art movement. That art movement was called Dadaism. Dadaism itself is based around the idea of nothing making sense. If we're on a, if you're fighting a war on a global scale for the first time ever in human history, probably nothing makes sense to you. And these artists were trying to reflect that in their artwork. So the chaos, the confusion, the idea of absolutely nothing making sense. In fact, the word Dada itself is a made-up word that this particular group of people got together and made up. They write a manifesto, so a rule book that their art's supposed to follow, but the manifesto itself doesn't really make sense. In fact, part of it's written in a made-up language. Yeah, Dadaism is pretty interesting. It went beyond just 2- and 3-dimensional art into poetry and theater and things like that. I remember when I was taking a contemporary art class once, they showed us an image of a man wearing a tinfoil hat, quoting poetry on the street corner, and he happened to be a Dada artist. So some strange things came about due to Dadaism, and we're going to talk about Dadaism a lot when we get to art history and the more modern side of art section. But for now, we're going to take a peek at Hannah Hoch's cut with the Dada kitchen knife through the last Weimar Beer Valley cultural epic in Germany. Yes, that is a crazy long title. It's like the longest, it is the longest title that we're going to look at in this class. But this is a product of her time. So Hannah Hoch was once again part of the Dada movement, which you can see the word Dada all over in here. And it was chaos. The world was in chaos at that point in time. So this is a collage of different images from newspapers and magazines and photographs that for her represented the chaos and the culture of the world she was living in at that time. So a wonderful example of contextual theory, the theory of studying art as it's being produced as a result of the world that the artist lives in. Any questions about contextual theory? Yeah. And we'll move on to the last one, expressive theory. Expressive theory is probably the easiest one to understand. That is art that is made for the artists to express their own thoughts and viewpoints. Has anyone seen this image before? No one?
I've seen it.
Okay, then you're not allowed to talk. So we are also going to be covering the idea of censorship today. This particular artwork was censored, meaning that it was removed from public view from the museum that it was displayed in for a very long time because it upset people so much. Actually, who said they saw this?
I thought you meant like the image of him on the cross, not like the actual picture. I haven't seen the actual picture.
Oh, okay. All right. Why might, and this is for anyone, why might the public have been so upset by this image? Just take a guess.
Maybe people have like different beliefs and that just go against what they believe in.
Okay, but do we censor Renaissance art that's all about religion, like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel or anything like that? No, we don't censor those. Usually religious art doesn't get censored. But yeah, I could see someone getting upset if that wasn't their religious belief. So once again, we are in expressive theory. The artists expressing their own beliefs. This particular artist was extremely upset at how Christians were treating Christ. So he made this photograph. If this photograph offends you in a second, I'm sorry, but it is artwork, and we're probably going to be looking at a lot of things that you might find offensive in this class. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and it does get us talking about the next subject, which is censorship. So this particular artwork is by Andre Serrano, and this is Immersion His Christ, and once again, it is a photograph. So what Serrano did is he took a crucifix and dunked it in his own urine and took an exposure photograph of it and displayed it in a gallery, and later on it got put into a museum. It's in a lot of museums now. But when this particular image and the title of the image was shown in the gallery setting and people learned about it, people were extremely upset, especially when they realized what the process was to make the artwork. However, like I mentioned, Serrano was extremely upset at how Christians acted in their faith. He thought they were not genuine in their faith, and he was making a statement on the hypocrisy of Christians at the time. And he himself was also, well, is also a Christian. So he's making a statement on how he felt people were treating Christ in their religion. But of course, the public did not originally want to listen to his reasoning behind making this artwork. So they didn't want to listen to his ideas of self-expression for making this artwork. They were just angry about the topic and the title and the way that the artist made it, leading to this particular artwork being removed from galleries for a very long period of time. It's just now entering back into the art world today. Does anyone have thoughts on this? Do you think it should have been censored? Let me stop sharing so I can see you guys.
I don't think it should be censored.
Why?
Just because it's of an expression of what he believes in.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm one of those people that like let people say what they want to say, kind of thing. I'm not going to take it too much to heart. It's not going to offend me, but that's my own personal opinion. There are people that get really offended by stuff like this, though, and I understand why. If you're a really devout Christian, you might be extremely upset by this image. This one was in the, I think in the early 2000s was when this one came out and was put into the public view. There's a work in your book by Christopher O'Feely that is of Mother Mary. That's another work that was censored. But before we talk about that, actually, no, I'll just go into it. So this particular work that I'm talking about, and you probably looked at by O'Feely, was censored due to the medium that was used in creating the artwork. The artist used elephant dung to make the image of Mother Mary. However, in the artist's traditional roots, elephant dung is considered to be a sacred item in his traditional African roots. So him putting elephant dung, which is sacred, on Mother Mary, which is also sacred, was his way of like combining these two cultures, his African roots and his Christian roots together to create an artwork. But it was another work that was censored because people were really offended by the idea of someone putting elephant dung on Mary. But yeah, so that has to do with artist self-expression and understanding other people's cultural backgrounds. But before we continue on much further, what does censorship mean? Can someone unmute and tell me? What do you think it means? We hear that word a lot in today's society.
Like stopping certain messages from spreading?
Yeah, so like Facebook censors certain posts and ads, Twitter censors ads, TikTok does their shadow bans if you post something that you're not supposed to post on their app. So censorship is monitoring and stopping what the public can view or see or read. The art world also has censorship, such as Serrano's Piss Christ and Ophelia's Mother Mary image. Generally, if artworks are censored, it's because they've offended someone. A lot of times, images of naked people in art get censored. So an example of that would be Michelangelo's David, the really large statue of David, was going to go on tour, and Russia said that they needed to censor it because they didn't want the public viewing a male nude. Of course, it didn't happen, but yeah, people were complaining. They didn't want people to see a nude man. So generally, if something's censored in the art world, it's because someone is offended by it, or they don't want people to be exposed to a certain topic. There are artworks that are based around trying to stop rape culture. There are contemporary artists that do that. So those particular artworks are pretty visual, and some people don't want to be exposed to that or don't feel comfortable with that. So certain galleries won't show those artworks just because they don't want to upset the public. So your censorship project is all based around the idea of whether or not you think that art should be censored. By art, I mean art that formal artists have created. So like not TikTok videos or Facebook ads or things like that, just because someone always tries to add that stuff in. We're going to think about art as in the stuff that we see in this class, or the stuff that would be put on display in museums and galleries. So what you guys are going to do is I'm going to tell you your groups in a second. And as a group, you're going to come to a consensus on whether or not you think art should be censored. So should art be censored? Should art not be censored? Or is your group going to take a middle ground stance and try and come up with a solution to make everyone happy? So your groups are, actually, let me do attendance again really fast before we go into the groups. Your groups are under the announcements page. I just posted that this morning, but let me do attendance really fast again. Now that everyone is on. All right, so if you forget this, once again, it's under the announcements page. Group 1 is Jessica, Alejandro, which, by the way, you guys that are in group 1, Alejandro's only come to one class and he's probably going to drop, so I wouldn't count on him too much. Michaela, Jackson, and Jenna. Group 2 is Corey, Kevin, Selena, Chloe, and Ruben. Group 3 is Desiree, Mahaley, Avril, Trey, and Joshua. Did I get everyone? Okay. So you guys are going to be working on creating a presentation. You're not actually going to be presenting that presentation unless you want to. You guys can record a video and compile it together and submit a video if you want. But what you're going to be doing for your grade is submitting a slides presentation. You can use PowerPoint, Google Slides, or Prezi, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But I did make a Loom video under the announcements page showing you guys how you can make a shared Google Slides doc. We actually have some time, so raise your hand on here if you can, if you are wanting to make a Google Slides doc. Okay, a bunch of people. All right, then I'll go ahead and I'll share the screen really fast and show you guys how to do that. And I don't remember. This is a new computer and my stuff isn't logged in right now. So give me a second. Okay. All right. So all you have to do to get to a Google slide is just go to Google, your Google account, and go to the slides and hit slides. Once you get there, you'll end up pulling up something like this, which you guys can title something like that. The great thing about Google Slides is that it does automatically save every few seconds. To share a Google Slides doc, all that you guys have to do is add in emails and then hit send. Now you're going to want to let them know that you did this because it's not going to pop up on like their email or anything. They'll have to look for the doc unless you put in a message and have it notify them. So that is an easy, quick way to do that. Now, your censorship project is not due until September 17th. But I will be giving you guys class time periodically to work on that together. Starting today, I'm actually going to give you guys time today to come up with a consensus on what you guys want to focus on and work that out together. So right now, you might want to figure out how to get into contact with each other, with your groups, whether it be email or texting or whatever. You guys can set up your own Google Meets, especially my early college, high school kids. You might want to work on Google Meets. Some of you other people might want to work on your own platform. You can use whatever you want to use for it. Google Meets is free. Zoom is still free right now. Whatever you'd prefer, but you need to have a way to contact each other and discuss things. Once again, I'm going to be giving you guys the rest of this class period to work together to figure out how you want to do things. I'm giving you guys total freedom on how you want to do that. I am going to stick around here though, and I'll do this for every session, just to answer any questions and give you guys some help if you need it. So if you're stuck on what you want to do on your topic, just ask and I'll probably have some ideas for you. Any questions? If you're wondering a little bit more in depth about the specifics of the project, those specifics are located under the censorship module section on your Canvas. Okay. So I'll give you guys some time to figure out how you want to meet. I will be here